Hello, boys. How are you keeping? I hope you are in good health and going through the lesson that I taught you in civics. And I have already forwarded the PDF of that chapter with all the questionnaire at the back of the lesson. So please do solve those questions in your notebooks and keep it ready whenever we meet in school. I shall take your notebooks and correct those questions. And in fact, if you have any doubts, you can always ask me during school hours. So let's start with a new lesson, and that lesson I have taken from the next half of the subject, and that is history, the Indian national movement. And we start with the first chapter, that is the First War of Independence, 1857, Causes and Consequences. Please keep in mind that you have the causes of the revolt or the First War of Independence, and you have the results, the consequences or the results of the revolt of 1857 or the First War of Independence. You should also know that this First War of Independence is also known as the Sepoy Mutiny by the British historians, or the Mutiny of 1857, the Revolt of 1857, and the First War of Indian Independence, which is the right title for this chapter. Why is this called the First War of Independence? Is because it involved all sections of the society to rebel against the British government, you can say, or the East India Company that was ruling at that time. So we have the first cause that has been given in the book, and that is the political causes. Now always remember that political means the rulers, related to the kings, the nawabs, the rajas, the rule, the policies. And so we have the first heading as the political causes, and in that, if you open page number 61, you have that first cause under the heading political causes is the doctrine of lapse. Now the first possible question that can be asked is, who passed this doctrine of lapse, and what were the provisions, or what was the provision of this doctrine of lapse? So the answer is, first, Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General to pass this doctrine of lapse. And under this policy, this is the answer, what is the provision of this policy? The answer is, if you look at the book, you have that line, under the policy, if the ruler of any dependent state or of a state created by the British died without leaving behind a natural heir. Natural heir means their own child, the state would lapse to the British. So this is the doctrine of lapse, that if any ruler did not have his own child, that territory, that state would pass on to the British. It would be under the control of the British. So you can be asked the next question, under the doctrine of lapse, which states were annexed, or name the states that were annexed under the doctrine of lapse? The answer is Satara, Jhansi, Nagpur and Jodhpur. So that is the first point of your political cause. You can give as a point also, you can put it as policy of annexation as one point, doctrine of lapse as another point, and the next can be the states that come or that were annexed under the doctrine of lapse. The next comes is disrespect to Nana Sahib and Rani of Jhansi. So you can be asked, how was Nana Sahib affected by this doctrine, or what was the grievance of Nana Sahib as well as Rani of Jhansi? So the answer for Nana Sahib is that he was refused a pension. He was the adopted child of the last Peshwa, that is Baji Rao, and so he was not allowed to take the Peshwaship after his father's death, and he was not allowed to be taken as the ruler of the Marathas. So he was very angry, and he sent different emissaries to different parts of the country, instigating them to revolt against the British. The other one was Rani Lakshmi Bai. She was not allowed to make her adopted child or adopted son to become the ruler of Jhansi after her husband's death. So we have covered 2 points. One is the doctrine of lapse, the person to pass it, the Governor General to pass it, the provision of the doctrine of lapse, the states that came under the doctrine of lapse and were annexed, then the grievance of Nana Sahib and Rani Lakshmi Bai. The next is the disrespect to the Mughal emperor. It was announced by Lord Dalhousie how he tried to humble the Mughal ruler Bahadur Shah by stating that he would leave the Red Fort and move to a place which was close to Qutub Minar, or stay outside the outskirts of Delhi. And then later on he announced that along with this provision that you have to leave the Red Fort, that was the official residence of the king, to go and live somewhere near the outskirts of Delhi, which was close to Qutub Minar. And secondly, that after his death, his successors would not be permitted to use the title of kings and would be known as princes. So this was a big insult to the Mughal emperor and discourtesy to the Mughal ruler or the emperor, and this hurt the sentiments of the people, and it hurt the sentiments of Zeenat Mahal, the wife of Bahadur Shah, and she started plotting against the British. Now when all this was going on in the country, where the Nawabs were the Mughal emperor was being treated like this, the rulers had to lose their kingdoms because of the doctrine of lapse, and the other princes who had still not been affected by the doctrine, but they were having that fear and suspicion in their minds that maybe they would also face the same situation which was faced by the other rulers. And this policy of the Governor General, Lord Dalhousie, was a big shock to the people as well. Then comes the annexation of Awadh. The first possible question that can be asked is, why was Awadh annexed? The first point in that is, Awadh was annexed under the pretext of maladministration. The simplest answer, boys, you can write is that Awadh was not ruled properly. That's why the Nawab was deposed and the province of Awadh was taken over by the British. We have studied that most of the soldiers, that it has been said that most of the soldiers were from Awadh, and when they saw to it that their homeland was being annexed, they had been subjected to a lot of humiliation since the time of Battle of Buxar in 1764. Dalhousie's excuse that Awadh